A stone prayer reaching for the sun. There are buildings in the world that are born and die with their eras, but there are those that become eras themselves. In the heart of sunny Barcelona, amid the bustling streets of the Eixample district, stands something that cannot be grasped at a glance. It is not just a cathedral, it is a forest frozen in stone, a prayer that has not ceased for over a century, and a dream that refuses to bow to time. When you first see these amazing towers, it seems as if they have grown out of the ground itself, like giant sand castles carefully sculpted by the hand of some fairy tale titan. There are no straight lines here because nature knows no rulers, and there are no random stones because each of them is a separate chapter in a great book. This is a place where architecture meets mysticism and engineering meets infinity. This is the Sagrada Familia. A lifetime of construction. The history of this masterpiece, officially known as the expiatory temple of the Holy Family, began back when horse-drawn carriages roamed the streets and candles lit the homes. The first stone was laid in 1882. Francisco del Villar initially worked on the project, but fate had other plans. A year later, the young and brilliant Antonio Gaudi took over, a man whose imagination knew no bounds and whose life became inextricably linked to this construction. Gaudi completely redesigned the original plan, transforming an ordinary temple into something otherworldly. However, this is one of the main reasons why the cathedral is still under construction. From the very beginning, it was decided that the construction would be financed exclusively by private donations from parishioners. This is a penitential temple, and every stone was purchased with money from people who believe in this idea. There is no state funding or church taxes here. Every coin thrown into the box by tourists or locals becomes part of a new column or spire. A challenge to technology and time. You may ask why in an era of skyscrapers that are built in a matter of months is this cathedral taking so long to construct? It's not just about money. The Sagrada Familia is an architectural puzzle of incredible complexity. Every stone block here is unique. Modern architects have to use complex computer models to calculate the shape of each element, because Gaudi conceived shapes that were previously considered impossible to realize in stone. Each detail requires individual processing and precision fitting, which turns construction into an endless process of creating a masterpiece by hand. The cathedral stands on land that does not formally belong to the church, and the process is not supervised by the official episcopate. It is a free creative endeavor fueled solely by the will of the people. Nevertheless, the scale of the project amazes the whole world. In 2006, the number of people who came to see this eternal construction project exceeded 2 million, putting the cathedral on a par with the world's greatest palaces and museums. Record holder among the heavens. Today, the Sagrada Familia has already changed the Barcelona skyline. In 2025, the cathedral officially became the tallest Christian church in the world. Its central towers rise so high that it seems as if they touch the Creator himself, whom Gaudi so often mentioned. He built this temple not for his contemporaries but for future generations. And although the master never saw the completion of his work, his spirit can be felt in every colorful reflection of the stained glass windows that flood the interior with mystical light. This building teaches us that truly great things cannot be rushed. Because the Sagrada Familia is not just architecture, it is a symbol that the human spirit can be higher than any stone and longer than any human life. The first design was developed by architect Francisco del Villar, who was replaced at the end of 1883 by Antonio Gaudi, who significantly changed the original design. According to the decision of the initiators of the cathedral's construction, the work is to be financed exclusively by donations from parishioners, which is one of the reasons for such a long construction period. Origins, a bookseller's dream and the first stone. It all began not with architectural drawings but with the pure faith of one man, Josep Maria Bacabella, a bookseller from Barcelona and a man of fervent faith, founded the Association of Devotees of Saint Joseph, and after traveling to Italy became inspired with the idea of bringing a piece of holiness to his native land. At first, he dreamed of a copy of the Italian Holy House in Loreto, but fate brought him together with architect Francisco del Villar. He convinced the client that Barcelona did not need a replica of the past, but a majestic neo-Gothic cathedral that would become a symbol of gratitude for the entire nation. Money was collected bit by bit, and finally in 1881 a plot of land was purchased. At that time, it was a wasteland a few kilometers from the city. No one could have imagined that the metropolis would eventually engulf this area, making it its epicenter. On March 19, 1882, St. Joseph's Day, the first stone was laid. This day is considered the start of construction. But the history of the Sagrada Familia as we know it began a little later, when, due to technical differences, Del Villar left the project, passing the baton to the young, still little-known Antonio Gaudi. Crypt, the foundation of a future miracle. Gaudí started with what was already there, the underground part, the crypt. Here he showed his character for the first time. He didn't just finish what had been started, but raised the vault higher, letting daylight into the underground. In the center, he installed a lock with an incredible relief of the Annunciation, and around the walls he created a special moat. It was a brilliant engineering solution to protect the temple from moisture and fill the gloomy underground with lively sunlight. A decisive turning point from the cross to the forest. A real turning point came at the end of the 1880s. A huge anonymous donation gave the architect free rein. Gaudí realized that he did not want to build just another copy of a medieval church. He decided to turn the cathedral into a stone gospel. Keeping only the general layout in the form of a Latin cross, he completely changed the design. The towers were to become giants communicating with the world through symbols. In 1892, the architect began work on the Nativity facade. It was a clever calculation on the part of the master. He feared that if he began building the Passion Facade first, austere, harsh, dedicated to the death of Christ, the city's residents would simply be frightened and stop supporting the construction. Therefore, he chose the path of joy, decorating the cathedral with figures inspired by nature itself. He even decorated the gutters and towers with snails and lizards that he saw around the construction site. Thus, the nature of Catalonia became forever intertwined with the sacred walls. In 1895, work on the neo-Gothic apse was completed. Around this time, part of the cloister corresponding to the portal of the Holy Virgin of the Rosary was built, decorated with rich ornamentation and symbolism. The portal of the Holy Virgin of the Rosary itself was completed in 1899. A school for children and the architecture of the future. Gaudí cared not only about stones, but also about people. In 1910, right next to the giant walls, he built a small temporary school for the children of construction workers. It was an amazing structure without load-bearing walls, with a wavy roof that was held up by its shape. This ephemeral little house became a harbinger of future architecture, light, plastic, and rational. The master created a space where the interior partitions could be moved, adapting the classrooms to the needs of the children. A forest of tree-like columns. In 1911, Gaudí completed the design for the Passion Facade, followed by the Glory Facade. He had an idea that would not leave him alone. The interior of the cathedral should resemble a forest. Columns branching out like tree branches were to support the vaults, and light through colored stained glass windows was to create the feeling of sunbeams shining through the leaves. Every detail was an icon, every curve a code. On November 30, 1925, the first 100-meter bell tower dedicated to St. Barnabas was completed. It was the only tower that Gaudí lived to see completed. He devoted more than 40 years of his life to this temple, often living right in his workshop among drawings and models. He knew he would not complete the construction, but he believed that his client, God himself, was in no hurry. And now we see how this slow eternity continues to grow. bringing to life the vision of a man who knew how to talk to stone. The test of time, rising from the ashes. After Gaudi's tragic death under the wheels of a tram in 1926, construction did not stop. The baton was taken up by his loyal colleague Domnech Sagranis, who had worked with Gaudí since 1902 and helped build the Sagrada Familia and many other famous buildings, such as the Casa Batlló and Casa Mila. He managed to complete 3 bells on the Nativity facade and finish the ceramic cypress tree that crowns the entrance, but soon the clouds of the Civil War gathered over Spain, and Domnech I Gaudí himself passed away in 1938. These were dark times for the cathedral. In 1936, a fire completely destroyed Gaudí's workshop, along with priceless models and original drawings. It seemed that the secret of the Sagrada Familia was lost forever. However, the fanatical devotion of his followers allowed some of the plans to be pieced together bit by bit. It was not until 1952 that work resumed, and the Nativity facade finally received its first illumination, which later became permanent. The Passion Facade and the Eye Sculpture of Stone. In 1954, construction began on the second large facade, the Passion Facade. In contrast to the joyful Nativity, this side of the cathedral tells the story of Christ's suffering and death. Its architecture is harsh, angular, almost painful. The work was based on designs and research carried out by Gaudí between 1892 and 1917. After the Crypt was completed in 1961, a museum dedicated to the historical, technical, artistic, and symbolic aspects of the project was opened there. In 1977, 4 towers were erected here, and later the stained glass windows of the Resurrection and the majestic bronze figure of the Ascension appeared. It was only in the first decade of the 21st century that the vault of the gallery, the transept, and the apse were completed. The construction caused a lot of controversy. In 2008, more than 400 cultural figures called for the work to be stopped, fearing that modern restoration for the sake of tourism would spoil Gaudí's spirit. But the cathedral, like a living organism, continued to grow despite criticism and the 2020 pandemic, which once again froze the taps for a while. However, the work continued. New records and digital technologies. Between 2010 and 2025, the cathedral's appearance changed beyond recognition. The towers of the Evangelists, the Tower of the Virgin Mary, and the grandiose 170-meter Tower of the Central Lantern were built. In October 2025, the Sagrada Familia officially became the tallest Christian church in the world, reaching a height of 162.9 meters. It surpassed the long-standing record holder Ulm Cathedral. But the most interesting thing is hidden inside the stone. To connect the details that Gaudí conceived over a century ago, builders used stainless steel, epoxy resins, and prestressed stone technology. This combination of ancient sandstone, marble, and modern reinforced concrete structures makes the cathedral a true engineering marvel. The geometry of God inside the stone forest. The interior of the temple is a celebration of higher mathematics, which Gaudí considered to be the language of nature. The master deliberately avoided straight lines. Instead, he used such complex geometric shapes as hyperboloids, conoids, and ellipsoids. After 1914, these figures became the basis of the entire project, since they are all formed by the movement of a straight line. This allowed the details to be perfectly matched to each other. The main support of the temple is its unique columns. At the base, they are shaped like stars with different numbers of rays, but as they rise, they gradually transform into a circle, twisting into spirals. As the columns approach the ceiling, they begin to branch out, creating the illusion of an endless forest. This is not just decoration, it is a precise calculation of the center of gravity, which allows the towers to support their enormous weight. Music and light. The towers of the cathedral resemble sand castles, but their shape is dictated by the spiral staircases inside. Gaudí dreamed of the cathedral making music. At the top of the towers, he planned tubular bells that would play along with 5 organs and a choir of 1,500 singers. The entire facade is decorated with liturgical texts and calls of glory to the Most High, and the spires are crowned with symbols of episcopal power. Today, with construction of the central tower nearing completion in 2026, the cathedral is preparing to reach its final height of 172 meters. It will be a moment when the earthly labor of thousands of people will finally be united with the heavenly vision of a genius who knew he was building eternity. First, beauty. The Nativity facade, most of which was created during Gaudi's lifetime, consists of 3 portals glorifying the Christian virtues of faith, hope, and charity. The portals are decorated with realistic sculptures dedicated to the earthly life of Christ. Above the left portal of hope are scenes of the betrothal of Mary and Joseph, the flight to Egypt, and the massacre of the infants, while its pediment symbolically depicts Mount Montserrat with the inscription "Save us." The right portal of faith contains sculptural scenes of the meeting of Elizabeth and the Virgin Mary, Jesus and the Pharisees, the presentation in the temple, and Jesus working in the carpenter's workshop. Above the central portal, under the Christmas star, are sculptural groups depicting the birth of Jesus and the adoration of the shepherds and magi. And above them are figures of angels announcing the birth of Christ, scenes from the Annunciation and the marriage of the Virgin Mary, etc. High above the portal rises a symbolic tree surrounded by birds. View from the Passion Tower. The spindle-shaped bell towers, reminiscent of sandcastles, are defined by the structure of the spiral staircases inside. Each tower is dedicated to its own apostle, whose statues are placed at the points where the towers change shape from square to round. Gaudí planned to place tubular bells at the top of the towers, whose ringing would combine with the sound of 5 organs and the voices of 1,500 singers located. According to the architect's design, on both sides of the longitudinal naves and on the inside of the glory facade. At the top of each bell tower is the motto "Glory to the Most High" or Hosanna Excelsis, above which rise polychrome spires decorated with stylized images of the symbols of the episcopal office, the ring, mitre, crozier, and cross. Liturgical texts are widely used in the decoration, and the main gate of the Passion facade is decorated with quotations from the Bible in several languages, including Catalan. The glory facade is to be decorated with the words of the apostolic symbol of faith. Various types of stone are used in the construction, such as sandstone, marble, granite, basalt, porphyry, travertine, high-strength reinforced concrete, epoxy resins, and stainless steel. Interior of the Sagrada Familia. Realizing that the temple would not be completed during his lifetime, Gaudí planned many of the interior details. The desire to avoid straight lines, along with the desire to simplify the design, led to the fundamental decision to use geometric figures with curved surfaces such as hyperboloids, hyperbolic paraboloids, helicoids, and conoids. All these surfaces can be obtained by the movement of a straight line, so their intersection can be a straight line, which greatly facilitates the articulation of various structural details. Another geometric figure, the ellipsoid, is also used in the design. Light in the interior space. Geometric shapes appeared in the project after about 1914. Earlier experiments by the master with the shape of columns and other interior details still contain the aforementioned strict geometric surfaces, but indicate the architect's desire to find specific spatial solutions known only to him. Thus, when designing the interior of the Nativity facade, Gaudí used columns with a circular cross-section with a helical or double helical pattern at the top of the shaft, while the rosary portal features twisted columns with flutes twisted in the form of one or more helices. Paints of the Holy Family Church. Everything in the interior is subject to strict geometric laws. Round and elliptical windows and stained glass, hyperbolic vaults, helical staircases, numerous stars that appear at the intersections of various linear surfaces and decorate the ellipsoidal columns. This is an incomplete list of the geometric details of the temple's decoration. The main load-bearing element in the construction of the main volume of the church is the columns, which distribute the weight of the towers and vaults. Depending on the load, the columns vary in cross-section thickness and height. The cross-sections of the column bases are star-shaped with a varying number of vertices from 4 to 12, determined by the load on the column, with a slight parabolic rounding of the rays on the inner and outer diameters. With height, the shape of the column cross-section gradually changes from a star to a circle, which is achieved by increasing the number of grooves, achieved by simultaneously turning the initial star template to the left and right. As they approach the vaults, the columns branch out, creating a previously unseen structure in the form of a forest. This unusual architectural solution was initially dictated by a structural necessity, the search for the center of gravity of the part of the vault resting on the column. From stone to mystery. But behind every precise calculation, every cubic meter of concrete, and every ton of hardened steel lies something that cannot be measured with a ruler or calculated on a computer. The Sagrada Familia is not only a triumph of engineering, but also a veritable labyrinth of mysteries that have been born in the shadow of its giant towers over the years. They say that when it comes to a structure of this scale, which takes an eternity to build, it begins to live its own life, becoming overgrown with legends like walls with moss. It is said that Gaudí left us not just drawings, but an encrypted message, the key to which is hidden in the very geometry of the temple. What if these strange shapes are not just architectural whims, but ancient codes that we are only now beginning to decipher? Let's put aside the dates and building permits and look behind the curtain of reality to a place where myths reign, where stones have eyes and numbers on the walls whisper prophecies. After all, even in the shadows, the Sagrada Familia hides more meaning than in the bright sunlight. Gaudí's magic square. On the Passion Facade, there is a strange stone square with numbers. If you add them in any direction, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, the sum is always 33. Officially, this is the age of Christ at the time of his crucifixion. However, conspiracy theorists see this as a Masonic trace, since 33 is the highest degree of initiation in the lodges. Gaudí was often accused of occultism, although he himself was a deeply devout Catholic. It is said that this square is not just a mathematical toy, but the key to a secret entrance to the underground, where the architect's true intentions are hidden. Prediction of his own death. There is a legend that Gaudí was so angry with his creation that he began to see the future through its walls. It is said that a few days before the fatal tram accident in 1926, the master stood for a long time in front of the Nativity facade and said to his assistants, "Soon construction will stop, but do not be afraid, I will help you from there." His death looked like an accident, he looked like an ordinary beggar, and no one recognized the genius of Barcelona in the old man. They say that he deliberately chose such a death in order to dissolve forever into his project. The stone eyes of the temple. Many tourists notice that at dusk, the figures on the facades begin to look too realistic. There is a grim myth that Gaudí, in order to create the sculptures for the scene of the massacre of the innocents, which we completely condemn as an act, made plaster casts of real stillborn children provided to him by local hospitals in order to convey the full horror of the tragedy, which we also condemn as an act, even though it is a myth. This story has frightened visitors for decades, adding to the cathedral's reputation as a place where the boundary between life and stone is almost non-existent. Geometry as a portal. Some researchers believe that Gaudí was not just building a temple, but creating an antenna for communication with other worlds. According to esotericists, the use of hyperboloids and paraboloids is aimed at accumulating cosmic energy. They believe that when all the towers are completed, the cathedral will begin to emit a sound of a special frequency that will change the consciousness of everyone nearby. Columns dripping with blood. There is a legend that Gaudí embedded a biological code in the cathedral's design. Some mystics claim that if you look at the cross-section of the columns where the stars we mentioned are located, they resemble the structure of DNA or the cellular structure of plants, which was not widely known in Gaudí's time. It is said that the architect believed that the cathedral was a living being. Local legends say that on certain days of the year, when the setting sun turns bright red and passes through the stained glass windows of the Passion Facade, it seems as if the white columns inside begin to pulsate and fill with blood, coming to life along with the city. The mystery of the dragon and St. George. Barcelona is the city of St. George or Sant Jordi, who defeated the dragon. Although the cathedral is dedicated to the Holy Family, Gaudí hid the figure of a dragon in it. Legend has it that this dragon is not just decoration, but the guardian of the architect's secret knowledge. It is said that it is positioned so that its gaze is directed precisely at another of the master's creations, Park Güell. Esotericists believe that all of Gaudí's buildings in the city are connected by invisible energy lines, and that the Sagrada Familia is the brain of this network, controlling the spirit of the whole of Barcelona. The prophecy about 2026. This is one of the most popular modern myths. The year of completion, 2026, was chosen not only because it marks the centenary of Gaudí's death. There is a belief that Gaudí left a note in his encrypted diary stating that the cathedral should be completed when the world faces a great trial, and that the completion of the central tower of Christ will be a sign of the beginning of a new golden age for humanity. Many believe that when the last cross is erected at a height of 172 meters, Barcelona will experience such a surge of energy that the city will become the New Jerusalem. Gaudí's final resting place. Gaudí is buried in the crypt of the cathedral, but myth has it that he is not there. It is said that the architect, who knew every nook and cranny of his temple, designed a secret room cell for himself deep under the foundation, where he allegedly continues to live in a state of samat or deep meditation. It is said that stonemasons working the night shift sometimes hear the sound of footsteps and the cough of an old man echoing from the ventilation shafts. They believe that the master himself supervises the installation of each new detail, and if he does not like something, the tools break and the equipment malfunctions for no reason. A symphony without end. As the sun slowly sinks behind the hills of Montjuic, painting the spires of the Sagrada Familia in shades of blood red and gold, it becomes clear that this cathedral will never be just a finished building. It is an endless stream of thoughts frozen in porphyry and basalt, which continues its movement through the decades. Each new column rising to the vault, each new detail added by modern craftsmen, is a continuation of the great conversation between man and heaven. We are used to living in a world where everything has a beginning and an end, where buildings are erected in a matter of months and projects are completed by strict deadlines. But here at the foot of the giant tree-like columns, this rush disappears. The cathedral teaches us another dimension of being. It whispers to us that truly important things require patience, that a dream can be longer than a single human life, and that eternity cannot be conquered by a work schedule. Even when the last central tower touches the clouds in 2026, work on this stone book will not be finished. After all, the Sagrada Familia is a living forest that is constantly changing under the influence of the wind, sunlight, and the gaze of millions of people. It is a place where sand becomes a shrine and ordinary stone acquires a voice. Perhaps the true meaning of this cathedral is not to be completed, but to be an eternal witness to our striving for perfection. And while clouds float above its towers and light plays in its halls, we know that as long as this temple is being built, there is hope that beauty and faith can overcome any earthly obstacle. This is a message from the past that we are still trying to read, and a prayer that will continue as long as this wonderful world stands. Thanks for watching, my friend. Don't forget to watch our other videos and learn new mysteries. we have a lot more interesting things in store for you.